Hello there, and thank you for tuning into this screencast. I'm Rex Proctor. In this screencast, we're going to talk about filters, filter patterns, and showing and hiding timeline rows, and how you can affect the appearance of the timeline using filters, making the timeline a heck of a lot easier to use. So let's launch angles. And here I've just got an AFL timeline here with some imported data, which has got a whole truckload of clips in it and lots of qualifiers. When we hover over a clip, you see that we have the qualifier pop-up, which shows you what is sitting inside of that clip in terms of extra data. Just a little tip, under the visuals menu, you can turn off and on information in that hover, so you can show more or less of the data in each of the clips. So I've tuned that down a little bit so that the pop-up isn't so big. Now, let's talk about filters. If I double tap on the right command key, that opens up the inspector on the right-hand side, and you'll see in here we have our filter. So as I'm hovering over this content, let's say I'm looking for kick short. So I type C or K-I-C-K, and that filters in all the kicks. It's a little difficult to see in that row because it is a gray row, but you can see here that the red ones are filtered in. So if I double click on a row, it will hop from filter to filtered in clip, which is very convenient. Remember, Shift Tab and Tab will take you back and forth through those selections. And you can multiple select rows like this, and it will tab and take you through each of the different rows. If you notice the clip cursor there, it is showing that effect there that's going through. So no need to make a movie out of that and be stuck with a static thing. You can just select as many rows as you want and just tab through those really quickly. Handy when you're exporting into a composer. So good little tip there. Now, we filtered in the word kick, right? Which we can see up in our filter box here. In the timeline, there is this little option that you can turn on hiding for the rows. So it will show only rows that have that qualifier in them. Now this one actually has a lot of rows, but you can see here that 19 of the 82 rows are now hidden. So that's a little switch that will turn those off and on. So let's see, how can we use this little filtering technique? What I'm going to do is I'm going to use some qualifiers here, and we're going to insert some qualifiers and show how effective this filtering option can be. So let's split this baby to the right, and I'm going to grab my playing groups markup, and if I set this into mark mode and then select all these rows of clips, I can input a qualifier into each one of those. So I've created these forward, mids, and backs because I want to filter the timeline for those and only show those rows that have those qualifiers in them. So I hold Control and Option, and that fires it in. Let me just show you how that works. You can see if I hold Control Option in that first one, that it gets inserted like this, and if I click it again, it gets removed from the clip. Okay, so now I've inserted that there. Now let's go into our, we'll just choose, these obviously aren't really the forwards, mids, and backs, but you'll get the idea. Now we'll fire in the mids, and then we'll fire in the backs. Okay, now let's get rid of that. We'll close that pane off. We don't need that anymore. And now we still have our filter on, right? So let's clear that. There's an option here in the timeline to clear the filter text. We'll get everyone back. And now if I type in MIDS, look what happened. That filtered in all of the rows where clips have the word mids in them as a qualifier. So I can save that. Let's save that as a pattern. And now that's in my list here, so I can quickly flick to that. Now let's make one for the forwards. And you can see that's filtered in all of the forwards. And I'll save that as a pattern. And now we'll do the backs. Remember, it is partial matching, so be careful. When you're using filtering, if you want, you can use quotes to get exactly what you're looking for, because sometimes the word back might be in other qualifiers, so that partial matching can trip you up. Use quotes to include those. So, and I add that pattern. And now I can flick between the different forwards, mids, and backs. Now here's another example. I've got chain results and goal, and that filters it like that. And I can turn that off and on like so, just showing and hiding the rows that have those filtered in clips. So a really cool way of being able to represent the timeline several different ways using the filtering.